Come on in and sit down. How is everybody? Good? I don't know what's happening on this side of the room, but wide open spaces. Well, you guys have made it. This is the last class. Congratulations. Ta-da! You're hardy folks. And when I talk to folks about doing a class on relationships, always, I wouldn't say always, but very, very, very often, people's first question is, are you going to talk about those other people? And so today is the day we talk about those other people. We actually start to dig into that. And, we know, let's see if this guy is going to turn on here. There we go. Maybe not. Did it? There are those other people. Those peculiar people we call family or friends. And like John Ortberg, the author, says, everybody's normal until you get to know them. Because honestly, people, they're a little weird, right? We're not, of course, but they are. One of my... If I've just got a little bit of time between Zooms, sometimes I'll go to this site called Awkward Family Photos. Have you guys ever seen Awkward Family Photos? Yeah. They kind of do these. People making their kids get out and stand by the highway as they enter South Dakota. But you catch all kinds of things. This one, it reminded me of Lord of the Rings. I'm not so sure that sibling wants to surrender their place in the family. Or you'll see pictures like this. Do you notice anything unusual in the picture? Smush. Yeah, we're busy taking a shot, though. And then, of course, when you're trying to get a room organized for a family shot, this is one. You got all kinds of dynamics happening in the room. You got a dog launching out at the aunt, I think it is, that's in there, and a kid that's crying, and a guy that's like, oh my gosh. Real awkward moments. So my question to start this morning is, what kinds of people bug you? What kinds of people bug you? The people that are hard to get along with, those people that when you walk into a room, you're like, oh, I think I'm just going to go here. So go ahead and first journal, write in your journal, what kinds of people, if someone asks you, what kinds of people bug you, what would you say? Take a few seconds to kind of finish up what you're writing in your journal, and then just, if you'd like to, we'll do a little table talk, and maybe share one or two of the kinds of people that tend to bug you. So go ahead, wrap up your journal part and go ahead and kick up a conversation at the table. Another minute. Okay. Give me some ideas. Like, Jason, your table here, what are some people that bug you?
I said unkind people bother me.
Unkind people. Yeah.
Well, I said irritating, but then it was hard to describe that. But then other people said like lazy or arrogant.
Yeah. Irritating, lazy, arrogant. People slow with the mic. Yeah. Yeah. Pat, how about your table? What did you guys talk about?
I don't want to get in trouble again.
You're getting better.
Yeah. She's on it now.
Inconsiderate,
Inconsiderate,
inauthentic,
inauthentic,
and mean.
mean.
Mean
Yes.
girl. Mean girls.
Yeah. Yeah. How about Nancy's table?
People who tend to take over a conversation that really they should have no part of.
Conversation hogs. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. How about here?
Passive aggressive.
Passive aggressive. That never happens in Minnesota. Right? Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Yeah, it actually was. Good call.
I said people that are standoffish.
Standoffish?
Well, like you'll ask them like, "Oh, how's your day going?" And they'll go, "Fine," and then kind of
Yeah.
pull back.
Fine. Yeah. How about this table here?
I
think for me, it's like people who lack eye contact when you're having conversation with them, it's very meaningful. And I know it's hard for people, it's awkward
Yeah.
to like have eye contact,
Yeah.
but it is a pet peeve of mine because I want to be meaningful. I want to look in the soul. I want
That's
to look in
right.
your soul.
That's right.
I'm
Look
just
at me.
saying, like, look at me.
Yeah.
Don't look around. Look at me and
Yeah,
take
amen.
me seriously.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, but I'm weird because it happens all the time. I'm like, hey, how you doing? I'm good. The weather's good.
Yeah.
Oh, do you go to church? Yeah. I go.
Yeah. Yeah, you feel like they're looking at someone behind you or something, like a train is coming or,
Yeah, and I'm not trying to be intimidating because I've been told that, but I'm like, I've been told you need to look at people in the eye, and you got to tell your children that too. And I'm like, did we forget that as adults to look at people in the eyes? Because you teach your kids to do the same thing. Right?
Yeah.
Look at me in the eye. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, pet peeve.
yeah, I still hear my mom, God rest her soul, right about here. Look him in the eyes, Mark. Yeah.
Attention seekers.
Attention seekers. Yeah. How about this back table?
All of the above.
All the,
We talked a lot about characteristics that have to do with judging.
yeah, judgmental. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, Mark, we have some answers online too.
Oh, you do? Great.
So Donna says, arrogant know-it-alls who won't look at me.
Yeah. How many have noticed, really since COVID, the lack of eye contact? You know, especially like if you're at a store or a restaurant. I think it's getting better. Are you guys finding it's getting a little bit better? We're kind of coming back from that. When I asked people, I did a little survey on my own, and this was a consortium of people that I got back. The yes people, the people who are always saying yes. You don't know, is that an authentic yes? Do you really want to do this? Or the no people, the people that just automatically no, I'm not doing that. The know-it-all, that came up. The critic, judgmental. The gossip, the complainer. The drama king or queen. The victim, selfish. The downer, like Debbie Downer. That was like my favorite SNL. Wah, wah, wah. Controller, it's all good. Bullies, passive aggressive, silent type, angry, talkers. I mean, there's lots of different ways that people leave us feeling like this. Like, what just happened in that conversation? We really are not quite sure. How do we make sense? So let me ask you this. What makes them challenging? What makes all those types of people challenging to you? What do you think? Just takes extra effort. Extra effort? Okay. Judy? Yeah, makes you want to pull away. Yeah. You need to be flash, Rachel. So, what was it? They're tiring, yeah. Exhaust.
Makes me feel underappreciated, which might cause my own selfishness to flare up.
Really what it comes down to is what's going to happen to me, right, in this relationship. If I move into this relationship, will my head get bit off? Will I get sucked dry? What's going to happen? Because all those dynamics, they feel like they're weird, they're threatening, they're uncomfortable, they're uncontrollable, they're unusual. And the way that we're wired as human beings is when there's something that's not familiar to us, we react by doing this. Different is dangerous. Different feels threatening. And so what we're going to do to get going this morning is we're going to talk about, well, what helps? What helps in those places where we bump into someone, we have one of these encounters that seems exhausting or challenging. And what I'm about to tell you as we get started, it's not an exhaustive toolbox, But really, I'm just going to give you two things that have been extremely helpful to me and to the people that I help. They're foundational. They're incredibly important to really helping us do good relational work, and especially when we're trying to work through a relationship that's challenging. Here's the first one, and you probably won't be surprised. Drum roll, please. Don't react. Don't react. If you react to the person or the situation, you tether yourself to it. You're stuck to it. Your response is really a reaction that's tied to what they're doing or not doing. And this is so hard for us to practice. There was a brilliant man who actually was a rabbi some years ago, planted a synagogue in Washington, D.C., which is not an easy place to plant a synagogue. And he was also a psychotherapist. Dr. Edwin Friedman was his name. And he became a person who was sought after by all kinds of leaders around the world because he reduced the dynamic down. And when I show you this cycle, you're going to go, yeah, that's exactly what happens. So Edwin Friedman, he would talk about this cycle of reactivity. And so there's an event that happens here, and when you first just react, so think social media people, think the debates, the presidential debates, how reactive. Think about moments when you just notice that the conversation goes south because the reactivity is so high. And so out of this reaction, as soon as that happens, you lose the best part of your brain that you need to really do a reasonable conversation. This is the part you need, the prefrontal cortex. This is the part that really, or what does the tone mean? But this part of your brain drinks tons of sugar. And the moment that your body gets amped up, a reaction, your body is thinking, oh, we're in a war. And so we got to get ready to either fight or run like mad. And so the first thing it shuts off is your prefrontal cortex. It goes back to your midbrain, and all your midbrain really does in that moment is tell you what's going on in your senses. Like, oh, you're not breathing. Oh, your jaw's clenched. Oh, your shoulders are up. And then the more you get that information, the more you get back to your brainstem, and you lose your brain. And the minute that you react, the next instinct is to herd. Oh, you're one of those people. Oh, you're one of those guys that think this way. You're this or you're that. Oh, people are always. Listen, no one on the planet's that consistent that they always do something. When you hear that always, probably not. Or never. And the tendency, just think about how this goes in our culture. There's the reactivity, and then you take a side. You're either a Hatfield or a McCoy. And there's not much in between. And once that happens, then you start to displace the hotness, the heat of whatever it is that's got you stirred up, you start blaming. Well, if those Hatfields would just shape up and quit trespassing on our land, we could finally get along. And this happens in all kinds of arenas. I mean, you see people talk about vaccinations, the politics, oh my gosh, all this. And the idea is that somehow a complex issue that started up here is a quick fix. And it's not. It's not a quick fix. If I set down people that are very pro-Trump over here and some people over here that were pro-Biden and say, now, have a good conversation, how do you think that's going to go? It can be a very short conversation, right? Because immediately what they want to do is take sides, place blame, and they think they can fix it. Look, no matter where you are on the political map, the country and the world that we live in has got layers and layers and layers of issues and problems. Leaders start to become the herd leaders, and it just blows up. And so what Dr. Friedman saw when he was in Washington, D.C. firsthand, all over the place, it didn't matter, if people were concerned about race or religion or politics. Washington, D.C. was so quick to polarize. And so one of the people that Dr. Friedman listened to was Dr. Murray Bowen, who was a family therapist. And he used to sit with highly conflicted families. So I don't know how he made it for a whole career. I mean, you're talking about families that it's like Miss Hatfield married Mr. McCoy and we're off to the races. But one of the things that Bowen taught Friedman, and Friedman became a huge spokesperson for, is the only remedy, this is the only remedy that they know of, and I would agree, when you've got this reactive cycle going, the person that can help that system and cycle and break it is the person who's not anxious. And that's where that phrase, a non-anxious presence, comes in. A non-anxious presence. You see, when you're meeting Joe or Jane, irritating, annoying, whoever it is that's getting under your skin, what happens to us, feel like conflicts, all of that heightens this sense of danger. Been into a war zone where there's a lot of anxiety. So I go to this big, beautiful house where we're going to sit down and talk with them, and there's about 30-something people that are there to talk with this man and help him get into treatment. And so my job was to first introduce myself and get him into the living room where all these family and friends are seated. So you could just guess where the anxiety went. And so the room was like this, and I was sitting in a chair here, and we had only gotten about 5 minutes into it. The person was just going to begin to read their letter and statement to him, and the room erupted. It just went from 0 to 900. People were out of their chairs. They were screaming. Some people were pushing each other. A chair went flying across the air. A lamp went back this way. And I'm thinking, wow, this is like a full-on room. And I'm sitting in my chair, and I was surprised that I wasn't unsettled. And so I took the moment to say to the Lord, Lord, what do I do? And this proverb came to mind that a gentle answer turns away wrath. So I'm sitting, and they're screaming. It's like two rugby teams that had too much beer. I mean, they're going at it. And so I just think so I said, oh, well, Lord, I need your help. Could we please try this again? No one hears me. A third time. Could we please sit down? And the guy that we were doing the intervention for turns around and he goes, why are you so calm? And I said, well, I don't think the opposite reaction is going to get us to where we want to go. And I really would like to try that if we could. Could we sit down? And you guys, it was like the Holy Spirit just came and knocked everybody on the head. And they sat down. Boy, a good 3 to 5 second pause and breath resets your nervous system so quickly. I mean, I wish I could take you in a lab, put a heart rate monitor on you, show you what happens in your brain. We give a startled response to tell you to do a physiological sigh, which is just a... And you can see blood pressure drop, heart rate drop. You can see the brain lights start to shift to the prefrontal cortex. Just a pause. Just a pause. And then from that place, settle. Let your body get settled again, and then call in the name of the Lord. Man, Lord, this is a hot mess. And partner with what he shows you to do. So, I'm going to explain a little bit of my rationale for why I have you do certain things in this class. Keep this in mind, though. This simple cycle, if you learn to pause, take a breath, let your body quiet down, notice your heart rate, notice where there's tension in your body, you turn your attention to Jesus and you partner with him, that provides for you the best foundation and place where you can be non-anxious, which is going to be the most helpful thing at those holiday get-togethers with that extended family bunch that are so easy to get along with. This is why you hear me harping on you about quiet. This is why I ask you to practice quiet. This is why I would ask you to keep practicing quiet. Where in the world do any of you just get quiet? And I was like, ooh. And I was like, ooh, I like this. This sounds like Wyoming, where you just can't hear anything but an occasional gust of wind. If you don't get quiet, you won't know what quiet looks, feels, and sounds like. And when you need it, you can't find it. And when you need it most, it's got to be practiced. Furthermore, the regular practice of quiet, there's all kinds of research now, which I love. I just collect it. But quiet reduces stress. It lowers cortisol in your bloodstream. It regulates your nervous system. It quiets the vagus nerve, which is very active when you're stirred up. It quiets it. It improves brain function and focus. It encourages creativity, good strategic thinking. It supports emotional regulation. It enhances spiritual awareness. I literally have a pile of research articles that's that thick just about quiet. If you want to be the kind of person that can navigate challenging relationships and situations, you must be a person who practices quiet. It's breaking down relationally as we have lost the sense of quiet. We just don't know. But it's not just our world. You can go back to the 1600s where a guy named Blaise Pascal said this: all of humanity's problems stem from a man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. Now he's no dummy. Was a master physicist, inventor, philosopher, theologian. Collisions would get navigated in a much better way if we could just plain settle down. Can I get an amen? Would this not be true, people? In fact, what I tell people is that first find settled, you won't do much good until you do. If you're unsettled, job number one, get settled. So many times when I'm dealing with, and I'm traveling to Montana in the morning, and I'm going to step into two churches, massive relational conflicts, and we're going to have to first practice what does it look like to be settled, to be still. And so many times when I sit with couples that are in conflict in marriage, somehow it'll come out this way, like, I can't believe I said that. And in my mind, I think, oh, I can believe that, because you were out of your mind. You were just reactive. And you're just doing a hard volley with different comments and back and forth. You needed your prefrontal cortex, and it was shut down. This is why the psalmist says this: I have calmed and quieted myself. I'm like a weaned child with its mother. Like a weaned child, I'm content. I just think this is such a fascinating analogy, because we have an unbelievable smell of sense or something, or they just intuit that mom, the source of milk, is nearby. Finds a settled place. And know this psalm, if you read Psalm 46, it's about mountains collapsing into the sea and the sea surging and swelling. Basically, the world's falling apart, and the psalmist wraps it up by saying, be still, chill out, take a breath, assume that non-anxious presence, and know that he's God. This is so important for us practically to really realize, first and foremost, get settled, because when we get settled, then we can settle into the love of God. We can settle into the awareness. Jesus said it this way, abide in me and I in you. This idea of being able to attach, John Bowen's theory about attachment theory is that good attachment, when a person, a baby, attaches well, they have two things that they've experienced. They have a safe haven and a secure base. They feel safe and they feel secure. Wow. That doesn't sound like rocket science, does it? What are you looking for in every relationship is safety and security. Right? And what Jesus is saying is, I'm that for you. Now you need to practice that. Find absolute safety and security any place apart from me. And if you're going to do the work of love, which the way I think about love is this, that when I say I love you, what I'm practically saying is I God you. If God is love, and God's love is unconditional and perfect, and what Jesus says is that a new command I give to you, love one another as I've loved you, we can say this, right? To say I love you is I God you. And in order for me to God you, I need to know what it is. This woman, in is best way I can with your grace and help, that she could become all that you have planned for her. And I will partner with you, Jesus, to love her, to God her in that way. And apart from God, when you look at the Spencer lineage and the wild, hard-drinking, hard-partying, vagabond bunch of Vikings that our lineage, I go back 7 generations in their adultery. There's no possible way that in Mark Spencer's own strength and initiative that he could say to Betsy, yes, I'll be faithful, apart from Jesus. So this idea of I love you is I God you, and we need this because when we're looking at this relationship, whatever relationship, we have a big question of what's going to happen to me if I move towards you. And so you're holding already some anxiety. Who's going to take care of me? What will happen to me if I do this? What if they don't like me? What if they're really weird? And so the idea is that you're first settling and trusting and abiding in Jesus. And you're trusting him to give to you what you need to move towards that person. If you don't get settled and secure, you're not going to do it. The most oft-spoken promise in Scripture, 365 times at least, some biblicists find close to 400 times something like this is said. It's the most oft-spoken promise command. Fear not. Do you think that I've encountered some differences with Betsy? Or she with me? Or she with me? Just for starters, she is 87% extrovert on the Myers-Briggs. I am 83% introvert. Now, an extrovert marries an introvert, and they're this far apart. Add to this that my work is talking and listening to people all day long. Betsy's work was she worked in a library where you're not supposed to talk. So when work was done and Betsy would make her way home, her idea of home in marriage was, I can't wait to get home and talk to Mark. And when Mark is driving home, he's going, oh my gosh, I can't wait to get home and talk to no one. I just want to stare at the wall. And that's when the fun starts. How do we love each other even though we're so different? Well, that has to be discovered by first settling down and appreciating who God has made the other and appreciating who God has made you. from that settled place, you're also asking Jesus, who is with you, Lord, how? How does an introvert love an extrovert? How do I do that? And this is true with all kinds of relationships that we run into. So does it make sense why have you practice quiet? Does it make sense why we need a non-anxious presence to deal with others? I hope it does. So, do we need to do a little break right now? Do you need to stand and move around, or do you want to keep going? Well, we're going to turn our attention to fostering friendship and what does that look like and what are some things that we can do in that quest. And I don't know why this froze. Let's try it again. The Apostle Paul didn't have to deal with such things. Here we are. Well, I think it's on. There it is. Whoa, it was just wanting to ridicule me. The only way to have a friend is to be one. Emerson's thought. How does that strike you? Does it strike you as, yeah, I could see that. World, usually it's people who are friendly have lots of friends. It makes kind of sense. So what we want to do is we want to think together, okay, what does it take to foster friendship? Trust, or what we call friendship. And so we're going to walk through in this next session each of these elements and kind of dig into it. So let's talk about time. It takes time to create this movement in relationships. There's a researcher, Dr. Jeffrey Hall, who has devoted his life to studying friendship development, relational development. And in 2018, his study kind of offered pretty conclusively these things, that it takes 50 hours to move someone from an acquaintance to a casual friend. So this is someone who you kind of know, that maybe you meet in the foyer at church, to a person that you would feel comfortable calling and saying, hey, let's get coffee. It takes 90 hours to grow the friendship from casual to close, and it takes 200 hours to develop the deepest level of connection. And he saw over and over again that there'd be these windows of time, and they were pretty fixed. There was some elasticity to it because obviously how you use your time is important. I mean, are you using the time to really see the person, to hear the person, to share some of you, to let them share some of them, and to build and foster trust? 50, 90, 200 hours. So one of the things that I want you to become aware of, and this is something that I quite often I have to tell people when they come into churches and they've just acquaintances you have, and begin to just think about, okay, if I map these people out, I can start here with really close friends. And if I notice there's not anyone that I would call an intimate friend, well then what do these next two rings of people look like? Are there some people that I would like to get to know more? Well, if there are, it's going to take time and investment. So you start to think as you do your friendship map, how can I invest myself in this relationship so that it deepens? Does that make sense? So this idea of time, I want you to realize that even though we talk about forging connections, I don't want you to think that, well, I graduated from forging connections. Tomorrow I should have 3 very, very lifelong friends. And I would wish that for you at a minimum, but it's going to take some time. I know, sorry. Big letdown. So you use your time to see the other person, to really see. Really see. I have in my life story, and sometimes I'll walk groups through mapping out your life story, but I have different places where people saw me in ways that I didn't see me. One of my favorite stories is Mrs. Sauer in 3rd grade. I was absolutely lost. We had just moved from my home where there was my sanctuary, the creek, and we moved to a strange town in the middle of the school year. I just felt so incredibly lost. And the only person I remember for probably the first 2 years there seeing me was Mrs. Sauer. And she board, and then when she'd turn around, she'd kind of glance again. And then when recess would happen, I was kind of sitting in the back, and Mrs. Sauer would just very carefully make her way over strategically, and she'd wait till most of the kids are out so as to not embarrass me. And then she would look at me and catch my attention, and she'd go like this. And this is what I remember, you guys. I can close my eyes, I can still picture her green eyes staring right into my soul. She would get down here, and she would go, "Mark, did you get any of that?" And I'd be like, she goes, "Yeah, don't worry." She goes, "So after school, I'll make sure that your mom knows. You go out to the locker like you're leaving, but just circle back. And you and I will take 15, 20 minutes, and we'll walk through the math." Oh my gosh. I did learn the math, kind of, but what I really learned in that moment was, wow, did she see me? And one of the things I realized when I was writing my dissertation on counseling and connecting was one of the very reasons when I walk into the room, I look for wallflowers. I look for loners. I look for the displaced. I look for the unlovely, unwanted. I look for them. And you know why? Because of Mrs. Sauer in 3rd grade. She saw me. I hope you have people that saw you. I had a guy in 5th grade that was our gym teacher, Mr. Sather, and we were supposed to be playing flag football. And then so, we helped the kid off the sideline, and class was over, and I'm walking out, and Mr. Sather catches up to me, and he puts his arm around me and spins me around, and he goes, I know you didn't really mean to do that, but that was a heck of a hit. You probably have some talent with football. And sometimes, isn't this true, you guys? It doesn't always have to be monumental like that. Like, I hope in your experience here that when you walk into this room now, you know a few people that you've sat with at the table. And isn't it nice to be able to walk into a room, and instead of seeing a room full of strangers, you can walk in and you go, "John, how you doing, man?" And you sit down, and I know somebody, and he knows me. And there's a connection, and you feel seen, right? Does this make sense? But seeing is a tricky skill. We can very easily think we're seeing when we're not. Look at this. Can you read that? Read it out loud. That's weird. Isn't that weird? Now, don't miss that last line. This is because the human mind does not read every letter by itself, but the word as a whole. Guess what us people do? We think we see. Those Pharisees, those Pharisees were really trying their hardest to see. So flexible. I mean, here comes Jesus wearing Levi blue jeans and flip-flops. It's like they caught this. Is that because you've seen it before or you caught it? Wow, very, very good. When I'm writing this book, I'm going to ask you to be my editors. But typically what happens is the majority of people, in fact, when they initially did this thing, it was well over 3/4 of the people wouldn't catch it because our mind races past it. It doesn't fit, so it doesn't fit our mind. And if we're going to really see people the way we need to see them, we need to recognize our propensity to miss it. And sometimes miss how we see ourselves. Because that can really twist us. If we see ourselves inappropriately, we don't see ourselves as valued and loved by God, that shows up. That can cloud your vision. It can feel like this. What am I seeing? That's weird, isn't it? It's a mind thing. So the ability to pause and to settle and to check in with God in these moments is so important. Even the big hitters of the Bible, like Samuel, when he's looking for the next king, he hears this from the Lord. Don't look at his appearance or his height. I've rejected this. Look at the outward appearance, but the Lord looks on the heart. And it's so incredibly important that we look in a deeper way. I mean, Samuel would miss David. If Steve Gould would not have seen me the way he saw me, I don't know where I would be. It literally turned my life in the right direction. I probably would have followed that 7-generation line of alcoholics and crazy people. But he saw me in a way that helped me and see God. So you can, some tables have 3 people. Some tables have like 4. Either get in a pair or a triplet. Just go ahead and pair up or triple up, however your table is. Like you guys could do 2 groups of 3, okay? Let me know when you're there. Are you paired up? Now, what you want to do is create a little space because you want to be able to turn your chairs towards one another. Now, decide in your coupling or your triplet who is going to be the actor. We need someone that feels a flair for acting. Okay? All right. Flair for acting. You're all going to get a chance, but we're going to have the professional actors go first. Now, here's what I want you to do, you that are acting. I want everyone to close your mind, or close your eyes, not your mind. I want you to open your mind. Close your eyes for a moment. And then those of you that are acting for me now, I want you to think of an emotion that you're going to portray on your face. An emotion you'll portray on your face. Get it in your head. Other people open their eyes and tell me what you see on the face. Did you get it? How many guessed it? We got some good guessers. Let's do one more. What'd you get? Did you get it? Yeah. Did you get it? Good. Sometimes hearing is helped by seeing, right? You start by looking. What are you seeing? And we're not going to bat 1,000 in this way, but empathy is a sensory deal. You literally have mirror neurons in your brain that mirror and resonate with what another person's feeling. And so the Italian neuroscientists that found this were studying monkeys. They had 5 monkeys in the lab that were they were observing their brains, and they gave 4 of the 5 monkeys bananas, and monkeys really like bananas. And they were actually thinking that they were testing the brain's response to deprivation when they noticed that George, the monkey, who didn't get a banana, his joy center in his brain was lighting up like the other monkeys that had bananas. And they're like, what's going on? And George's mirror neurons were rejoicing with his friends who got bananas. And that was the uncovering of we've got these mirror neurons. One of the reasons people like dogs, especially now you see therapists using dogs, some therapists use horses because they have large volumes of mirror neurons. They can feel you. And part of what you want to do as a friend when you're hearing and seeing is feel that person. That's why we have a saying that's like, you feel me? You get me? Oh, you understand. These are all phrases that a person gets you. Someone said, A true friend is someone who sees the pain in your eyes while everyone else believes the smile on your face. God, Nighthawk on this. She would always be calling people out quietly, but she would look at the eyes. So, we're going to do a little exercise now. And what I need you to do is, you can do this in threes, or you can do it as a pair. But if you're going to do it in threes, set up your chairs back to back, like a little flower petal. You know what I mean? Go ahead and set up your chairs. Or if you're going to do couples, just as a couple, set up your chairs back to back. You didn't realize you're going to get your exercise this morning, did you? Now, decide, if you're in a coupling, decide who is going to draw and then who is going to narrate. And I'll explain the narrate in a moment. Someone has to draw. If you're in a triplet, excuse me, you'll have one narrator and two drawers, okay? But you're going to want to sit down, and if you're drawing, you're going to want to have your pen and your paper. So get equipped. Okay? Yeah. This goes to the narrator.
The narrator.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Sharon is going to walk out of the room. Narrators, make yourself known. She's going to give you a shape. Turn the shape over. Do not let the drawers see it. And drawers, God is watching. Do not peek. Okay? Okay? Johnny, you are the narrator? All right. Yep. Pat, you're the narrator? Nope. Who's narrating? Well, to see the drawing, they're simply just going to be able to cue off of your instructions. Well, to see the drawing, they're simply just going to be able to cue off of your instructions. Now, you cannot say the shape, like draw a circle. Well, that's not very hard. You have to describe drawing a circle, not using the shape's name. You get the drill? So there's a variety of shapes, and go ahead and get started. When I say go, you're going to start to narrate instructions to the drawers, and we'll see what the drawers come up with. Are you ready? The drawers can ask clarifying questions. Yeah. They can't say, like, is it a triangle? Okay, ready? Get set, go. Don't coach them according to what they're drawing. This is their visualization of what you're laying down. Thanks, Sharon. "30 seconds. The pressure mounts. And stop. Go ahead and now, narrators, you can look at the picture. How'd they do? Yeah. Good? Oh, wow, yeah. Very good. All right. How did you do? Good? You got the picture. Good. Excellent.
Got it in 2 sentences.
Wow.
Not in one word, actually.
Wow. That's exceptional. Way to go. Did you guys do pretty well? Hooray. Now, drawers, you really had to listen, didn't you? And as you were listening, you had to picture, didn't you? You're formulating an image, right? Now, here's the deal. You need to know. Like, who are the familiar faces that give me food when I'm hungry, or pat my back, or change my diaper? Who are those familiar faces? Who are those welcoming faces that smile? Who are those scary faces? The baby starts ordering the first thing they do is categorize. And we need that. We need that sensibility. When you walk into a threatening place, you want to be able to label that and categorize that. This is not a safe place, right? Now, we need to hold that thing, though, in an appropriate way, which is where bias and prejudice becomes a problem. If we just let it run free rein, we've got a problem. In relational development, you know, when you have someone that irritates you initially, you could miss an opportunity to get the right picture of the person. One of my favorite stories is with a pastor, Gary, who mentored me early on in my ministry career. And there was a man that was in the hospital. It was said that he was probably on his deathbed. And he really didn't have many friends because he was a bit of an ornery guy. And so the family wasn't coming to visit him. People weren't coming. Someone called Pastor Gary and said, "Hey, Gary." And so Gary said, "Yeah." And he wasn't really looking forward to it because he felt like he was walking right into the lion's den. And the picture that he had in his head was a picture of an ornery man he's not going to want me there. He's going to push back, and this is going to be incredibly uncomfortable. I'm not sure why I'm doing it. Can you get all that self-talk? Because that's what I would be saying to myself in driving, like, this is, ugh. You know, maybe I should wear a face shield because he might punch me in the nose or whatever. So Gary got there, and he was nervous, and the guy really wasn't expecting him and wasn't so happy when he came. He goes, "Why are you?" "I don't really like peanuts. I just suck the chocolate off of them and put them back in a bowl." That broke the ice. Gary was like, "Oh, man, you mean to tell you?" And he was like, "Yep." And they both laughed. They both laughed. And in that laughter, they found a bridge. He was a little skittish, but they found a bridge. So they talked a little bit longer. He asked a few more questions, and they began to form this relationship. And it took time. It took seeing a little bit, hearing, but it took this moment where they got a different picture of each other. Does that make sense? So be aware of the fact of you will, as you listen to somebody, you will form images of them. You will think that they're this way or that way. Acknowledge that. Don't pretend like that's not happening, but hold it with an open hand. That's hearing. Hopefully, when you see and hear a person, it will lead to sharing, which this guy shared his peanuts with Gary. He didn't really know what he was getting into. But this idea of sharing means you're not just going to expect them to share, which is going to be a little vulnerable, right? This is where we need to be settled. This is where we need to be quiet. And in this one, I do want you to pair up. So go ahead and find a partner. And don't, fear not, these are not going to be life-altering, death-defying things. Everybody have somebody? You ready? Okay, I'm going to post 3 questions. I'm going to post them one at a time. And what I want you to each to do is I want each of you to answer the question I post. Okay? Is that clear? Here we go. Question number 1. What's a favorite hobby or pastime you have? You say them. Yeah, don't write them. Just say them to each other. Yep. Good clarification. A favorite hobby or pastime? You ready for question 2? What's a challenge you faced recently? Another 30 seconds. Question number 3. Ready? Here's question number 3. What's something you struggle to share with others? What's something you struggle to share with others? Another 30 seconds. Okay. Were you able to each get through that? Now let's talk about this. How did it feel to walk through the progression of questions? What did you notice? They got harder, got to think harder? Yep. And what did you notice in yourself? When I flashed this last one, what's something you struggle to share with others? Yeah. Oh no, it just got real. You know, my answer, my kind of evasive answer is chocolate. I really struggle to share chocolate with others. That's mine. Don't touch that. But obviously, we're looking for something a little bit deeper, right? Can you notice, though, what happens as you progress through seeing and hearing and preparing to share with others is to read the moment. Now, here's the deal, people. This is such an axiom, such a proverbial truth, is you will only know how much you're loved by how much you're known. You will only know how much you're loved by how much you're known. If you remain a virtual unknown, you will not feel connected. And take it from a guy that lived the life of a very devout, committed liar and concealer and mask wearer Didn't want anyone to know me. I didn't want anyone to get close to me. And I had all kinds of ways of using humor and my aloneness to kind of remain secret. And it left me on my insides absolutely destitute of any feeling of connection. And then once I met Christ and I started moving towards connection, the struggle I had is, oh boy, if they really knew what I was like, they wouldn't like me. And one of the radical things that happens when God meets us, when Jesus meets Simon, or where Jesus meets Saul, is that the person you thought, you're not Simon, you're Peter. You're not Saul, you're Paul. He knows you. He made you. He created you. He wants to go, take that off. And he wants to create a place here. That's why the vision statement still remains my favorite church vision statement of 43 years of ministry, is that we're creating a safe place where you can be with and become like Jesus. Oh, that there would really be a place where you could be so safe, you could be completely known. It is so incredibly true that, wow, you saw me in the worst way, and yet you still managed to stay with me. And that requires sharing. And sometimes sharing happens in unusual ways. You know, a person will call you out, challenge you, pursue you. For some strange reason, I thought when I got married that I would be able to still hide. Was I wrong? Betsy can be like a dog on the hunt. And there was no hiding in the house. Stay out of here! But we had several critical moments in our relationship and in our conversations where Betsy saw me at my most weak and vulnerable places, and still by the grace of God loved me and accepted me. That was mind-boggling. Because up until that point, I did know that my mom loved me, but this is what I did with that. I said, well, my mom loves me, but of course, she carried me for 9 months in her stomach, gave birth to me. She's a mom. Moms have to love you. It's like the doctor gave, here you go, lady. Looks like this is going to be a rough one. Good luck, you know. That's how I wrote off my mom's love. But I felt the same way as like, Mom, it's like, it's God. He says he loves everybody. Yada, yada, yada. And I wrote off God that, other than to say, maybe I'm lovable. Just maybe. Friendship moves at the speed of trust. One of the critical features of moving from close to intimate is that you've found somebody that you can trust. Either you told them something and they looked back at you with empathy in their eyes and they said, wow, I thought I was the only one. Or they just looked at you, sat with you, put their hand on your arm, and I'm with you. They didn't run out of the room screaming, oh my gosh, you're a freak. Friendship moves at the speed of trust. Now, we want to risk wisely. We want to trust wisely. And some of you have seen these little scales. This is from the book, How to Avoid Marrying a Jerk. And he talks about jerkettes and the whole thing. But the idea is that this is like a light board or a sound board. This is off, and this is gradiated way up all the way on. And each column represents something. This first one is no. Second one is trust. Third one is reliable. In other words, reliability is, oh, you really are the person you say you are. There's no surprises. As you get to know the person, it's reliable. And as you get to know the person. And so the idea is that knowing and trusting they're tied together. If you know a person this much, you probably should only trust them about that much. Is that what you would say? I mean, you don't want to just give them all this trust because you don't know. You want to find out, okay, are they really who they say they are? And are they going to handle me fairly? And as you do that, then you're able to move through to a place where you can move the slider scales up and give your heart room to trust that person. Are they reliable? Are they committed? Can I give my heart to them? And this is why it takes, according to Dr. Hall, those hours of investment, hours of time. So I say this to say this. We're talking about forging connection. We're talking about the need for relationship. Probably everybody in this room has some place in their heart where they feel like they could use another good friend. Who doesn't need another good friend? But it's going to take time and work and testing to develop that kind of a good, trusting friendship. And we need to understand that this process has to take place. Does this make sense? Any questions? So as you're relating to the person and you're finding yourself a little hesitant, you can ask yourself, well, am I waiting to see if they're really reliable? Am I waiting to see if they're really committed to my goodness? Is there something more I need to know about them? But it gives you a place to study and look. Now, you can do all this work and you can still run into collisions. You can still have relational struggles. And because usually when there's a collision relationally, it's an opportunity to grow your relationship deeper. Conflict is usually the doorway to intimacy. But the problem is that if we're not equipped to know what to do with that conflict usually becomes the exit door, not the entrance door. And one of the most important things when you're hoping for that kind of connection, but the reality is that there's different reactions we have relationally, person to person. Because really what it looks like is people have different personal spaces. They have personal closeness that they don't. We all have, most people say in the social science, they all say that we have a certain barrier that we want between us and them. And so if I sit down to talk to Steve and Sade here, and I'm here, this is a good social space. I'm close enough. They can see me. I can see them. You guys feel okay? I'm not going to, but if I move over, that's awkward, isn't it? Yeah. Thank you, Steve. It's like, whoa, that's a bit much, Mark. You have this social space, and everybody has a little bit different kind of space that they have around that you're negotiating. And sometimes if you don't know it, sorry, Steve, if you don't know it and you slide into that space unknowingly, there's going to be a little bit of a conflict. They might let their quills poke out. Who knows? But the closer the relation, okay, what is the space you need? And that's, I know I talked to you guys about Betsy and I, when we would come home, how we would join. Have I talked to the class about this? Did I mention to you about Betsy working at the library and me talking? Yes. So one of the things that we did to resolve that was that we really had to think about how do we come back together when we get home. And part of what Betsy had to realize, because she is a very big extrovert, is she needs less personal space than I do. I need you know me, you see me, you hear me, you value me, and so you will handle me respectfully. But the only way that people can know these things is if you will voice them, if you'll explain them. People cannot read your mind. People cannot see this invisible shape around you that says, this is the personal space I need. It has to be articulated, which is what boundary setting is is for. It's defined. It says, this is my space that I need. That's your space. Does that make sense? Now, I ask that question honestly because people in church think that if you're a good Christian, you're just always available. You're always open. You know, it doesn't matter. You just can't have any personal space. That's a misnomer. You even see Jesus as he walks through the Gospels creating lines and borders. Oh, you Pharisees, I wish you would get close, but you got to be out here in the acquaintance ring. I kind of know you, you kind of know me. But then he's invited these other people in close, Peter, John, and James, in the intimate circle. There's places that's defined. And it's so important because when we work for the we, a person needs clarity and understanding. Those are the two things you really need, clarity and understanding. That means considering with patience and kindness what the other person needs without losing hold of what you need or want. It's that I can reach out, and if I'm sitting down getting to know John, I can reach out to John. There's this dance. Now, there's this dance. Now, we know, we psychologists study this kind of thing, and this has to do with where you locate yourself. Some people locate themselves externally. They're the kinds of people that very quickly pick up the vibe in a room. They're very quick to pick up, oh, that's what you're feeling. But their sensibility is outside themselves. They're not so fast to pick up on what they want or need. So their challenge is, in boundary drawing, to make sure that they don't bypass themselves. Then there's other people that are located inside themselves. They're pretty clear about what they want and need, but they're not always so aware or so quick to pick up what the other needs. Their work is to slow that process down, to get to know what the other person needs. The deeper the relationship, the more important it is to have clear lines, because it helps people to realize this is where my property begins and ends. We have this everywhere. When I walk in the woods, I can see places where it says posted land, no trespassing, and I know that's the line. Over here, I'm okay. If I cross into here, I'm trespassing. And it's really good because it helps me to understand what is mine and what is theirs. I mean, basically, me, where I end and you begin. And relationally, that's so important to know. Now, how do I know I need some boundaries? We'll get practical here. You may lack boundaries if you feel guilty for taking time for yourself. Betsy knows I'm an introvert. Introverts need time by themselves. And it still is very hard for me to say, I need to walk in the woods by myself today. I just feel like a selfish wimp. Needy. Mark, you're not needy. You're just yourself. I made you an introvert. Deal with it, dude. But if you fight that, if you feel guilty for taking it, that might mean that you need to draw some boundaries around that. Or if you say yes when you really want to say no. You want to go no, but it comes out yes. Or, akin to that, you give away too much of your time. You're just all over, available to anybody. You gonna do that? Yep, I can do that. Yep, I can do that. Mark, you just triple booked yourself. What do you think? You're omniscient? You can be everywhere, omnipresent? You give away too much time. You don't speak up when treated badly. This is one that I find a lot of Christians struggle with. Instead they'll eat the conversation. They'll eat the hurt. They'll walk away from it. It's appropriate. It's appropriate to respond in a good way. Not react, but respond. Jesus would ask questions of the Pharisees. Why do you say this about me? It's fair. part of that is defining the relationship, the lines. To say, no, that's not appropriate to speak to me that way or treat me that way. If you don't, you'll wind up feeling like you're getting taken advantage of. Instead of the relationship being equal, you're being swallowed by this other person or people's needs. And that commonly looks like you agree with the person when you actually disagree, or you feel guilty when others aren't happy. All those Yeah, John. Yeah, I mean, codependence could be like this. Codependence, what they're saying is, I would really like to call out whatever is going on in the relationship, but I feel like if I do, I'll lose it. So you sacrifice yourself in the relationship. Let's talk about how to set up personal boundaries. Because again, this is kind of unfamiliar territory for a lot of Christians. First, what you want to do is you want to define what is it? What is it I'm experiencing? What am I feeling or not feeling or needing or not wanting or to happen in the relationship? I need to define it. It needs to be clear. And I need to be certain about it. This isn't something that you're kind of like, I don't know. This is something that you're pretty sure. You've thought about it. You've considered it. You've prayed about it. You're pretty sure you need to say something now. It's defined. Does that make sense? If you're not sure and certain about it, that will be reflected and be a temptation for the other person not to take you serious with your line. Secondly, then communicate it. Say what you need. Practice saying it. Practice saying, you know what, like Jesus was a master at this. He would say things like, Peter, I have something hard to say to you. It's like, Peter, buckle up. Put on your big boy pants. We're going to have a conversation. Okay. And then communicate clearly. Say what you need. Say what you need. And one of the best things you can do when you're drawing a boundary is practice saying it aloud so you hear it. I have to practice. Let's turn it around, fella. So communicate. Simplify. Don't over-explain. Don't get tangled up in trying to make the person feel good about the line you need. Please don't do that. You'll get all tangled up in knots. They may not see it right away. They may not agree. Go ahead. You've thought about it. You've defined it. You've practiced how you're going to articulate it. Now just own it. And then in your response, you say why it's important for both you and them. The reason this is important, it's about us. So when Betsy and I had that conversation about how we were going to come together in the house after work days, and I was the one that inspired that conversation, I wanted to have it in a way where, yes, she would understand what I want and need, but yes, I would understand what she wants and needs. And we would come up with a plan that would factor both of those things in it. Questions? The idea, yeah.
Can't give them what they need.
What if you can't give them? Well, then it's that. Sometimes a person will come from a family system, for example, that's pretty demanding and do not move away from the family. So the family is pretty insistent, you're not moving. And they're pretty sure in junctures in a relationship where you'll say, I don't know if I can do that. Then you work what you can in the relationship. Many times, the thing that hangs us up as Christians is we think boundaries are selfish. Like, I'm trying to save myself. No, you are stewarding yourself. God has given you life. God has given you the freedom to invest that life, and He wants you to do that responsibly. The most important gift you have is you and your story. You're just stewarding it. Boundaries are hard on relationships, to Brian's point. I mean, you might run into a place where you have something that you can't just shake hands and call it a deal. And then it's like, well, how do we maintain our relationship even though we have this difference? That's a challenge. Boundaries will make me miserable. Actually, good boundaries will make you very happy. And lastly, boundaries are mean. A lot of Christians think, they just sound so mean, Mark. It's not mean. Clear is kind, Dr. Brene Brown says. To be clear, this is what I want or need or think, or this is a line for me, is very important for the integrity of a relationship. If you want it to grow well, then you've got to have some lines. So let me, in the remaining moments that we have, let me give you some examples of boundary drawing, okay? And anywhere along the line, if you guys have questions like Brian did, just raise your hand and we'll talk about it. Here's an example. You've thought about it, and here's what you're saying to your friends. While we're good friends and I care about you, I'm asking that you not call me after 10 at night. What do you think? Is that needy? Is it mean? I mean, don't call me after 8:30 at night, because I'm asleep. That's fair, isn't it? You could just turn your phone off nowadays. Yep. I kind of don't like that response. What? I feel like it leaves them in the control. So, like they're asking you, well, you change, so I don't have. Yeah. And that'd be something that'd be important to talk about, John. Could you hear John?
I didn't like his response to her suggestion because it still keeps her in control and it's asking you,
Yeah.
it's asking you to change what you are
Yeah.
requesting from her.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
And that's a decision that you would have to make, and then it goes into the conversation. For me, I would go, yeah, I guess I could do that. Maybe I would say, and yeah, maybe just don't call. I don't know. I don't know. I'd have to know, is this that big of a deal, or have we, the main thing is I just don't want someone to call after like 10, right? That's my goal. But good questions, good thoughts. All right, here's one that happens commonly. I understand your need to process, but I'm not comfortable talking about someone without them being in the conversation with us. I understand your need to process, but I'm not comfortable talking about someone without them being in.
100% a great boundary, because that person is not there, and you should not be disclosing that information without that person
Right.
present. It's like, it's simple. If it's something that is involving them, you need to be able to talk with them about that.
Yeah.
And that's a clear boundary. That's crossing a boundary, and it's not, I'm working through these things. But it's like, if you want to talk about so-and-so, let's bring them in if you have the problem. Because then you start getting tangled in the drama.
Relationship, interesting, on the planet is a triangle, a triad. It's three, because it wants to clap. It claps into a dyad, just two. And then that means a person's going to be outed. So one way that you really preserve a person's integrity and well-being is to do something like this. Yeah.
So I have a person in my life that I think she doesn't have a filter. It's part of her disorder. And I've told her many times, please don't talk to me about, and it's one of my stepsons, and she's in a relationship with him, and she still keeps bringing in all the drama, and I can't handle it. And I keep telling her that, but she's like, I gotta tell you this, and then she tells me. And she has some kind of a ADHD, there's a disorder in there, and so I don't know how to deal with her when she has, because she has that lack of a filter.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I do. And I would have to know the situation more to know the particular disorder or concern. But I do know this, that a person will understand. It's like, you know what, I need to talk to you about what we talk about sometimes. And when you go here and they really want to do that, in fact, I can't do that. It just does not feel right. So when that happens, if you don't notice it, I'm going to call out. I'm going to have a password. Nope, or whoa. I'm going to do something to signal to you I'm not comfortable with where this conversation is now gone. And that's me taking responsibility for me. And so if that person's got something that they're struggling with, a disorder or something that gives them a kind of propensity towards that, okay, but here's another one. I want to talk with you, but cannot continue the conversation if you keep shouting at me. Right? Sometimes if a person's just ranting or yelling at you, it is appropriate, even as Christians, to say, we need to restart this conversation. Because your tone or your gestures, it's just not, it's not bringing connection, it's bringing disconnection. So do we need to take a time out? Do we need to restart this? But I can't continue if you keep shouting at me. Fair? Here's another one. I'm not comfortable sharing that information right now. Thanks for respecting that. In our quest to be vulnerable, which will build trust, sometimes we're unsure. The thing that you have that's the most precious to you is your story. That's your story. That's your story. It's the most valuable thing you have. And if you're not comfortable sharing your story, it is completely fine to say, I'm not comfortable sharing that right now. What do you think? Does that sound mean? Sound like a closed book? What do you think about this? Boundaries. Sharon? Yeah. Yeah. Could you hear what Sharon said? Me and your understanding. This is important to me. And that, I think, would be a place to start that conversation. Addressing that feeling that you're having if you're getting pressured, pushed. Does that make sense?
I was going to share too, Mark. I think sometimes with boundaries, it really helps you know what you are okay and not okay with. So that first back and forth was, well, maybe I am fine with you leaving a voicemail.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm not. It makes you think about those things yourself. You get to know what you're okay with.
I have a problem with all of these things. Sorry. You know how you drew those circles of acquaintances, casual friends, close friends, and then deeper relationships? So all of these things that you just shared, and I don't know if it's the ideas that you shared, and I mean these last four statements, or the formulations, but all of them sound like me talking to people on the outer circle. Hi, I met you in church 5 times. Oh, you want to have coffee with me? Yeah, sure, just don't call after 10, and don't talk to me about that person, and no, I cannot imagine saying any of this to my close friends, because if they are close friends, then we have moved way past all of that. We are comfortable calling each other at midnight and past midnight. In fact, my best conversations with one of my friends were past midnight when she started reading the Bible, and she could only call me past midnight. And yes, she would wake me up, but oh boy, how that made me saying something not kind about the other person. I just said, hey, we don't speak like that about other people. Hey, come on. We can discuss that person all you want. Absolutely. Just keep in mind that, yes, you can share your grievances about that person with me. Absolutely. Just, make sure you do not descend into slander. And you can be sure that I will not carry this conversation out, out of this time. Nobody else will hear about it from me. So, yeah, and I'm not comfortable about sharing this information right now. Yeah, I would, yeah. So I think all of those things, all of those statements relate to the outer circle of people when you are thinking, you look kind of interesting. Do I want to build a relationship with you or not? Oh my gosh, you're calling me at night and you're sharing stuff with me I don't want to hear. Yeah, sorry, coffee once a month. No, sorry. But if I like a person, and if the person clearly likes spending time with me, and I like spending time with her, and we develop relationships, we move way past that.
I don't have time. But I would say this, to be aware of this, that every relationship is a system defining the relationship. Because now the relationship's based in a way that it's, secondly, when there's contempt, where the criticism is left to categorizing the person, where you feel like, oh, I just don't get them, or I just don't like them. That's a declaration of contempt. When you find yourself being defensive or standoffish, which leads to finally this stonewalling, where I'm not even going to emotionally engage. When you notice those elements, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling, when you notice yourself doing that, or another person in your relationship doing one of those four things, or some of them, it's a sign of, we probably have to renegotiate how we're relating. Does that make sense? That just a quick upset, because we got to finish up here, and I want to say to you this, that this idea of forging connections is so critical, because when we look at our world, this is just an example, over half of Americans report feeling lonely. I think that number is actually too low. What's happened since COVID is people have gotten so familiar with being alone that they don't know they're lonely. I think the numbers more accurately, 3/4 of the people feel a felt absence and loneliness in their world. So when you think about that, here's the church. The greatest power we possess is the power to love, to so confidently trust our God that we will offer ourselves to others. And along those lines, as we do that they would know we're Christians by our love. Like, why? How do you do this? How could you do that? So in closing the class, and I thank you for your attention and your smiles and your questions and your thinking and your digging in, but I want to pray, because I really believe that if the church wants to make a significant connections, let me pray with you. Lord, thank you for these folks that have thought and asked and talked with each other and even risked sitting quietly. God, help us. You know, you understand that relationships are intricate and complicated. Sometimes it feels like it would be easier just to say, I don't think I'm going to work at it. But yet something in us craves deep relationships, deep connection. Help us, Lord, as we go from here. May your Spirit speak clearly to us. Is it something that we need from you? Is it in our faith? Is there something that you want to correct in our self-image, or the way we think of ourselves? Or is there a call to invest ourselves in the lives of another that we might foster a deeper connection? Help us, we pray, because we agree with what your word says. They will know we're Christians by our love. In Jesus' name, amen.